There's nothing Dalradian could do that would ease my mind. And the only thing they can do is go away, go back to Canada, pack up and go away.
Fidelma O'Kane is literally sitting on a gold mine, or rather, what will be a gold mine if a Canadian company gets its way. 2 years ago, this small protest camp sprang up to oppose it.
We are absolutely determined. There are people here who have said they're prepared to sacrifice their lives for the land and for the air and for the water here to keep it for their children and for their grandchildren.
We're concerned for the gift of nature that's been given to us.
Leave the gold where it is. There is no useful value to humanity in gold. It's this shiny metal.
That's what you get, and that's a small bar of real gold. Let's say $20,000.
So that's $20,000 worth of gold.
Yeah.
It's very heavy.
It is.
But with gold prices soaring in recent years, there could be considerable value for Dalradian gold, and Northern Ireland too. With 10 years of exploring it, Dalradian says the Sperrin Mountains of County Tyrone is one of the most promising undeveloped gold deposits in the world. Peter McKenna is Sperrin born and bred, and it's his job to convince people that Dalradian's gold mine will be small and discreet and as clean and modern as they come, and it'll bring work.
In building it, there's a construction project that will employ, 200 or 300 people. And then when we're up and running, we'll be able to provide 350 direct jobs. We will have a supply chain that will push £750 million into our local area across the life of the mine.
Many don't believe this or don't care. Northern Ireland's government has called a public inquiry into the proposed mine after a planning application received 40,000 responses, 37,000 of them objections. But this is by no means a simple story of locals saying no to an international company.
It's a commonplace with mining that it often takes place in remote or rural areas with few other sources of income. Here in the Sperrin Hills, most people either work in small-scale farming or in trades like carpentry and construction. It's by no means a rich area.
And it wasn't hard to find people here who want the mine. Mechanic Jerry Kelly says they're actually the majority.
It's going to bring back a lot of the young lads and lassies that's left here to go to work, basically in the same work in Australia, the mines, gold mines in Australia. But it's leaving them young people, has the experience now when they come back, that they're guaranteed jobs here.
Neighbour against neighbour, brother against brother. In this small rural community, one of the few things either side can agree on is that this mine has divided them. Rory Challens, Al Jazeera, County Tyrone, Northern Ireland.
Well, let's speak to Alistair MacLeod. He's the head of research at Gold Money, an online platform to purchase precious metals, and he joins us now from Exeter in the United Kingdom. Alistair, watching Rory's report there, these divisions clearly run very deep. How soon do you think could this issue be decided in Northern Ireland?
Well, the problem with public inquiries is you have no idea how long they're going to take. It is a problem, and I thought your clip actually captured the problem very well. In a place like Northern Ireland, and indeed in Scotland, where this ore body continues, in fact, you've got a lot of people protesting on environmental grounds, and politicians are very sensitive to those environmental issues. So it's actually quite a difficult one. Now, if they can get over that, then there is potentially a major industry here. I mean, we're looking at this Greencastle deposit. It's roughly 1.5 million ounces of gold. There's silver, there's copper as well. But in Scotland, there are 4 other prospective mines, and there is a further one actually operating near a place called Crianlarich. So it's a belt of about 400 to 450 miles long, of which Northern Ireland is just the southern tip. So it's an interesting situation, but we've got to get over the environmental concerns, and that is not easy.
Well, as you say, this has become such a politicised issue. Is there a way then for politicians to make sure that the community sees more benefits here beyond just jobs?
Well, undoubtedly, there will be a bit of negotiation on that basis, but it's difficult to see, given the work that this mining company, Dalradian, has already put into it, it's difficult to see really how they can improve sufficiently on that. We have to accept that the protesters basically are dug in, and they will protest whatever Dalradian comes up with. So only time will tell whether they're successful.
Oh,
The other problem with Sorry, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Well, so I'm sorry for interrupting you, Alistair, but I do want to ask you also about the major environmental concerns here. You touched on that earlier. Is there actually a way to dig a hole in the ground and mine gold without damaging things?
Well, sort of. I mean, if you look at the planned site, actually, it blends in really pretty well. Now, as long as this is underground, that shouldn't be too much of a problem in one sense. The real problem comes with open cast mining, where you literally change the appearance of the landscape. But with this, I would have thought that there shouldn't be too much disruption. But, we're up against these environmentalists. I mean, the first application, they were talking about removing the gold from the ore using a process known as cyanide leaching. And of course, you mentioned cyanide, poison. You can see that is a no-no. So they've taken that out and they're going to use other means. But, it really is. You've got environmentalists really dug in on one side, and that's what they've got to get over.
Alistair, I do want to ask you briefly, we have seen the gold price shoot up as a safe commodity during these uncertain COVID times. Do you think that's providing more impetus here for companies to dig?
Well, not really. I mean, the problem is that it takes so long to plan one of these mines and to get it into operation. Once you've overcome all these public objections and so on and so forth, that really you've just got to sort of assume that the gold price will make it economic. And I see, looking at the grades in this, which are reportedly up to 10 grams per 10 grams per ton, the grades actually are quite respectable. So this should be profitable. I think one of the problems is that if you look at why the gold price has risen, it's really reflecting debasement of paper currencies, fiat currencies, government currencies. Now, what that will mean is that in a little time, and probably not in very much time, given the scale of the COVID-19 problems and the way the global economy has really been hit very, very hard, central banks are printing money. I mean, you could find that the cost of an operation like this starts rising in paper currency terms quite rapidly, and that could have a major impact on the viability of mines like this.
Very interesting indeed. Alistair MacLeod there from Gold Money. Thanks so much for sharing your insights here on Al Jazeera.
My pleasure.